Good morning. It's Monday, August 4th, 2014, and this is Tech Talk Today, episode 37. It's a Monday. And it's already the fourth day into August. It's ridiculous. To help me cope and sift through all of the technology news that's actually worth talking about, I am joined by a great group in our JB Mumble Room. Good morning, Mumblers, or time-appropriate greeting, Mumblers, as I should say. I'm trying to get better about that.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. Okay, so we got a couple of stories I want to start with. You know me, I like to do my weekend reading and then come to you guys on Monday with the stories that I thought were the most interesting over the weekend. Sometimes some stories get some attention, sometimes some stories don't get some attention. This first story, it caught my attention. A drone crashes carrying contraband trying to get into a prison. I find the whole drone, consumer drone thing, technology, really fascinating, partially because I want one for media production. I think who needs a crane shot when you can have a drone shot? So here's the details. A drone was being flown in an attempt to smuggle phones, marijuana, and tobacco into a South Carolina maximum security prison. It crashed just outside the walls, authorities said on Wednesday. Officials believe it was the first time an unmanned aircraft has been used in an effort to breach prison walls. Now, there's actually been another one since this first happened. Most of the time, though, the way people get phones in is they throw them over the walls. So this is an attempt to sort of one-up that, so they don't have to throw them over the walls. Authorities have arrested one man in the drone incident and are seeking another suspect. The guy's name is Brenton Lee Doyle. Got to get the middle name in there. He's 28 years old. He appeared in court on Wednesday for the hearing. He faces charges of attempting to introduce contraband into a prison and possession of drug fluoxetine. I don't even know what that is. It's like some sort of pill. It's a muscle relaxant, also known as roofies. Okay, I know roofies. I didn't know that. I guess the technical term is for roofies is fluoxetine. Anyways, Doyle said that he's never even seen a drone before. That's not his drone. This is literally what he said. And his lawyer said, my client has never seen a drone, and until the time of his arrest, he didn't even know that you could do that. We'll see. They're also looking for another suspect who tried to fly the drone over the wall. I'm worried. You know why I bring this up? Is I'm a little worried that we might see a crackdown on these consumer drones. I don't know if you guys have seen like these. There's this one. Robert Scoble did a video on it that just made me want one so bad. The shots, the footage from these drones is so incredible. Have you guys seen some of these?
Yeah.
There's another podcast out there that was doing remote drone hacking, so essentially it'd be the same thing.
Yeah.
But,
I think it's one of these things where the regulations about the drones have not caught up to what's actually happening in the marketplace, and they're going to overreact. That's, I guess, what I'm worried about. It's sort of a swing to the correction side, and then we lose out on like the opportunity for guys like me to buy a drone to do a little independent media production stuff.
It'd really, really suck if they went, full bore on, military and police drones, but then made it so you couldn't have one.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens, though, because there are problems. You could see how something like this could be an issue. There's going to be all kinds of new security problems where before all they needed to have high security was a tall fence. That's not going to work so well. I'm more interested, too, in citizen journalism using drones as well. I think there is a lot of opportunity at public protest events to do a citizen documentary of from the perspective of maybe people doing the protests or things like that. There's all kinds of really interesting and exciting possibilities with drones just in the consumer space. And so we talk a lot about the bad sides of drones and the military use of the drones, which is the one that I think when you say the word drone, that's what people associate. But there is a lot of positives, not just Amazon deliveries. Now, our next story is something that has some positives, and we're starting to learn every day more about the downsides. Now, this next story is a bit sensitive, especially for those of us who have children, so I want to warn you ahead of time. And I also think it's worth pointing out that the end result, I don't know if we're going to agree that the ends justified the means, but at least in the end, children were protected. However, our next story is interesting. It broke over the weekend in almost sort of a brag-like fashion. Google announces that they worked with authorities to identify child pornography in a man's Gmail inbox, and then they contacted authorities. They weren't requested by authorities. They contacted authorities and told them about it. Here, this news clip is from the local district where it happened. I'll give you a little bit of background.
First, new details emerging about the man arrested for child pornography.
Detectives say that he worked at a Denny's in Pasadena and took videos of children dining at the restaurant.
He was only caught after Google tipped off police that he was sending pictures online. Tim Wetzel has the latest.
John Skillern was convicted of sexually assaulting a child 20 years ago. Now police say technology unthinkable back then caught this sex offender preying on kids again.
They got a tip from Google, basically Gmail.
Detective David Nettles is with the Houston Metro Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. He says Skillern used his Google account to email a friend 3 explicit pictures of a young girl. The company's software detected the pictures and they turned him in.
He was trying to get around getting caught, was just keeping it inside of his email. I would never be able to find that.
Thanks to the tip, investigators say they got a warrant, which led them to find the child porn on Skillern's tablet and cell phone.
All right, so obviously, good thing they caught this guy. But a couple of things about this story jump out at me pretty profoundly. The first one is that Google found this on their own initiative. They weren't requested, there wasn't a warrant issued. They found this on their own volition. The second thing that catches my interest about this is he wasn't even sending it outside his Gmail account. Much like David Petraeus and his affair with Paula What's-Her-Name, they kept it all in their inbox in the drafts. But yet still it was detected. Now, I mean, you could argue there is a genuine public service happening here. But I wanted to start with the Mumble Room first before we go any further. Fate, I'll bounce this first question off of you. When you hear this, does this sound like Google walking a fine line, or does this send off red alarm bells to you that is Google reading everything in my inbox beyond just trying to get ad information?
Yeah, I mean, God, this is one of the hardest stories to hear because you feel so good that they got a guy like that. But on the other hand, yeah, it's kind of creepy that when you think about it, they must be analyzing every iota information you store with them, because if they didn't, then they wouldn't have caught him. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of. I mean, as a parent, I absolutely would be very grateful if this stopped somebody who was doing something perverted with my children. I mean, I would be pretty much on the positive side of this. As somebody who has watched a lot of things, though, start as a way to protect the children or maintain common decency or civil security, you've seen a lot of things that start that way, that over time, maybe it takes a generation, a different crew comes in and takes over that responsibility at the company, departments move, the things move around, there's all kinds of things that happen in a company over a period of time or a government agency where something that starts with good intentions ends up something that gets used for something very bad. I mean, what's the road to damnation is paved with good intentions, right? I don't know. Bull Ninja, you're new here to the Mumble Room. What's your take on this story?
I mean, it's a good and a bad thing, kind of like what Fate said. Yes, it's good that they caught somebody like this, and my applause to Google for that. But at the same time, it makes me wonder about Google's security. How far are they going to go, or how far are they going to reach their bounds to say, hey, we feel that this is a problem?
Right.
Kind of like what's going on with the Microsoft debate right now with the drug lord that's over in
Ireland. Yeah.
In Ireland.
Yeah. Faye, what were you going to say?
Well, okay, so right now they tipped off the police and the police got a warrant and they got the information. But, if this appears useful, how much longer before the police have a direct line into your Gmail account and they can read whatever they want?
Well, and I don't mean to be hyperbolic about it, but what happens, say take the Boston bombings. Let's say the Tsarnaev brothers had an email in their inbox that would have tipped off authorities about the Boston bombings before they happened, and this is discovered after the fact. Wouldn't that then create political pressure on Google to expand beyond just child pornography and say, well, we need terrorist information too? And isn't that, once you start going down that route, doesn't that become an incredibly slippery slope? Because sometimes in history, free speech can be considered a form of terrorism. And you could see how this starts to become something that could be really bad. And obviously the answer is don't use Gmail. But I mean, let's set this aside and realize that the general population is using Gmail. In fact, I just read a study that a unbelievable amount of medium-sized startup and large-size tech companies are switching to Gmail or Google Apps. So let's take in mind that, yes, while you can move away from Gmail, there is so much inertia here to people moving into Gmail that we are potentially giving up some incredible amount of privacy. And I want to ask Lionhead this question, because let's talk about this. Let's kind of dial it down a little bit, and let's talk about it from a technology standpoint. What's probably actually happening here, right? Think about Google. Google indexes the entire web and probably finds a lot of nasty stuff on the web. They can generate hashes of those images, so they can say, okay, we've identified this as child pornography, and let's face it, they probably have the ability to do that algorithmically just by analyzing the image. They tag it as child pornography, they hash that image, and then maybe, Lionhead, is this make it better? Is if they're just doing hash matching of our inbox, does that make you feel less invaded?
Well, I don't really think so, because, as you said, people that want to do bad stuff, as soon as they understand that Google is sending information to the authorities, will move away. They will find other solutions around it. That it's only people that is, well, as common that don't get caught in this kind of thing.
Right. It's kind of like saying the Edward Snowden leaks tipped off terrorists to change encryption. It's like, no, if you're a terrorist, you're already using different types of encryption because you're working outside the system. It's like if you're a drug dealer, you don't make the drug deals on your personal cell phone line, right?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. So you end up catching, well, small fish with, I would call it, of course, as in a child pornography, anyone that gets caught is good, but you're not catching the big networks because they are already outside the Google environment.
This, to me, is, Google's really going down a path now where it's essentially, and this is like Bloomberg wrote this up, or I'm sorry, Business Insider said, the debate rages on about how much privacy users can expect when using Google services like email, and in a word, it would appear that expectation is none. A year ago, in a court brief, Google said as much. In April, after a class action case against Google for email scanning fell apart, Google updated its terms of service to warn people that it was automatically fully analyzing emails. I think before, a lot of people assumed they were just looking for keywords to generate AdWords. At least that was my incorrect assumption. One last Google story, and by the way, audience, I'd love to hear your take on this Google story. Go over to techtalktoday.reddit.com and leave a feedback in the thread for this episode, or email me today at jupiterbroadcasting.com. We also have the contact link at the top of our site. Last, just a quick Google story, because we've been commenting on how it seems like Google's definitely pulling back from G+. Rumors have now turned into actions. We've seen Hangouts now broken out from Google+. We've seen the ability to make voice phone calls in Google Voice using Hangouts without the requirement of a Google+ account. There's been a couple of other things. Now here's the latest rumor. Bloomberg is reporting that Google is going to separate the photo service built into G+. They're going to extract that out of Google+ and make it a standalone Google photo service. I don't know how this will work, because one of the secret sauces, if you have Google Plus on your phone, is it can automatically upload the images, and then Google does some back-end processing on them. I think the photos aspect of Google Plus is hands down my most used feature, because I'm taking so many pictures of the kids, and a lot of them are crap. And so Google's ability to automatically auto-analyze the good ones and highlight them and set them aside for me is nice. As a separate service, though, I don't know. Are we about to see Google Plus collapse? You're taking out all the good stuff. You don't have to have Google Plus to have Hangouts anymore. They're taking out the photo requirement. I don't know.
I think you put your finger on the spot there. You don't have to do that, but I think you still can.
And maybe they'll all be better if you use them together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a really, you don't have to use Google Plus, but if you want to, it's even better. I think that's actually a pretty smart move, if that's how they're going to play it. Just a quick mention, speaking of email privacy, surprise, I decided to also throw in a link in the show notes to go try out MailPile's alpha demo. You remember MailPile? It was started by Ladar Levinson, the guy who was behind LavaBit when he was shut down because he hosted Edward Snowden's email. They went out and formed the Dark Mail Alliance. MailPile is one of the projects, an open source email suite that supports encryption and privacy out of the get-go, and they've just released the second alpha, and they have a live demo. You can go try it out. In fact, I'll click it right now. I'm going to go there, although they're probably, here it is. So I'm logged in right now as Joe Random, and this is the interface to MailPile, and I got to say, It's definitely come along. It's a little cut off from what you guys can see in the capture here. I'll try to move my window a little bit. But I'd say it looks as clean as Gmail does right now. It's coming along.
Open source?
Yeah, it's open source, yeah. And it's available on GitHub. You can pull it down right now, or you can just try out the demo. They have a live demo up on their website. How cool is this, huh?
I'm curious to know, because obviously you've got services like Proton Mail, which are closed source by the looks of it. What's going to happen with the sort of privatized mail industry? Is it sort of going to converge on these open source technologies, or is it going to break up into these more closed source technologies?
I think, you're going to have a good mix of both. I mean, there is almost going to become, I think market demand has arrived. You need to be open source for a certain class of people and group of people, and these are the higher end people in the industry to use your product. I'm looking at you, BitTorrent Chat, right? I'm looking at Proton Mail. I mean, those services will exist, and they're going to offer a certain level of peace of mind to the more casually security conscious user. But for those of us who want to host their own mail, who want to move away from things like Gmail, or those people who are in the industry, or those people who are implementing solutions for clients that want secure solutions, it is now number one feature and a bullet point on the box needs to be open source, auditable code. That's got to be on there, right? I mean, post Snowden, it's got to be on there. That's my thoughts.
I've been waiting for something like this.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for the Dark Mail Alliance to release something. And
yeah.
I've actually had a DigitalOcean droplet
waiting
for this to come out. So now this is out.
Yeah.
It's going to be going up.
You can grab the code. They've also just got a working demo up on their site. It's mailpile.is. We also have, of course, have it linked in the show notes. But if you just want to go to mailpile.is, Alpha 2 just hit yesterday. They're working on speed, search, privacy, making it out of the box. They're making sure they're building something that can be self-hosted, which I mad respect. I think that's great. 100% free and open source. And it's looking really good too. This might be what Jupiter Broadcasting is able to deploy. I don't know. I mean, I've kind of been waiting around to see what happens. Of course, I don't know what I would assume. You have to sit it on top of an existing stack of like IMAP and SendMail or or Postfix or something like that. I don't know if it provides all of those or not. I'm not really. I'll find out when I try it out. I got something from the Reddit over the weekend pile that I wanted to follow up. It's another theme, another thread we've been following in the show. It's these new cellular plans, and I think we've got a term for them now that's not bad. It's called zero rating. T-Mobile did this where they say, oh, you can stream Spotify for free. No, not Jupiter Broadcasting, but Spotify you can stream for free. And now Sprint came out and said, well, look, for $10 a month you can get just Twitter, and but another $10 on that you can get just Facebook. Yeah. And it's unlimited. Can't do anything else. Oh, you want to make calls? Yeah, it's going to be $30. So a really, really, really well-known VC, Fred Wilson. You might be familiar with Fred Wilson. He's a New York-based venture capitalist. He's been doing VC since 1986, so he's like the VC hipster. He was doing VC before it was cool. And he's also now become a pretty well-known blogger. He has got a blog at avc.com. And he's also, by the way, the co-founder of Union Square Ventures with investments in Twitter, Tumblr, Foursquare, Zynga, Kickstarter. So he's following the industry and these up-and-coming web startups pretty closely. And he wrote on his blog about these zero-rating pricing structures. He says, it seems like every week I read another article about a mobile carrier offering some incredible deal to eat the mobile data costs you rack up using certain apps. The most recent news that Sprint will sell data at a plan that only connects to Facebook and Twitter. The preconious thing about zero rating is that it's marketed as consumer-friendly, offering to the user by the mobile carrier, and they say, hey, look, we're not charging you when you are on Spotify. But what all of this zero rating activity is setting up is a mobile internet that looks a lot like cable TV. Soon, a startup will have to negotiate a zero rating plan before launching because mobile app customers will be trained only to use apps that are zero rated on their network. I strongly encourage policymakers, policy wonks, internet activists, and anyone who cares about protecting an open internet for all to take a hard look at zero rating. Like all the best scourges, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Boom. That's exactly how I feel. And
completely agree.
That's Fred Wilson. He's been following the industry for a long time. He's been making money by making the right bets. And he's been making money by investing in companies like Kickstarter before anybody ever heard about them. And he's watched these companies and what it's taken for them to actually become a business. So this man knows what the hell he's talking about, right? And he's saying that we are creating a new class of gatekeepers. and we are welcoming them because it's a great deal. And think about what that means. In the future, he's right. You will have to negotiate if you want to be a new startup, if you want to be the next, I don't know, Reddit, whatever it's going to be, right? You will have to work out a deal with each frickin' carrier. What a nightmare.
Yeah,
Here's the scary thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think the most intimidating aspect of this entire situation is that mobile seems to be the industry that keeps taking off, that keeps getting more fame and renown within the tech community. Everyone's more and more interested in mobile. And to subvert the app marketplace like this, every single application is going to need more and more data as time goes on, just because that's the nature of the industry. To essentially cablify this entire system by creating an environment where the user is not mandated, but incredibly incentivized to use only applications that meet this requirement. It's startling and it's scary, because I don't want, the diversity to be reduced to just a handful of cable stations on my cell phone.
Exactly. And it's the reason I think mobile has such attention, such fame, is because it's finally getting all of these services and all of these ways for these companies to make money and all of these developers to get their crap right in front of average consumers who are finally not intimidated to use this stuff. I mean, I look at my family members who their entire life have successfully avoided using computers through a series of gymnastics that is unbelievable, and yet they have fully embraced tablets. The family has Kindle HDXs and iPads up the wazoo. People who have avoided computers literally their entire life. One of these people is 80 years old. She has made it a point of pride, and she loves her Kindle tablet. And I'm telling you, that is making the rest of the industry cream their pants, because there is such an opportunity there, and these people that are in the position to become gatekeepers have so much money to make off of this opportunity. So much.
So here's the really scary thing, right? In his post, he mentions that they're advertising these plans as consumer friendly, but if you really look at it, and I got a quote source here, I was watching the tech from Texatica, so shameless plug, sorry, but the really scary thing is when you look at these plans, you end up paying more for other types of data.
Yeah.
When data is just data.
Yeah.
So you can see these companies slowly increase price over time, but they spend less and less on infrastructure, and it just becomes the the cable company conglomerate again.
Yep. They don't have to spend as much money on infrastructure, so they save money that way. They're charging more for average access. It's great. It's beautiful. Why wouldn't they want it? I don't blame them for trying. I mean, they're just doing their shareholders right. But at the end of the day, we have to be informed consumers, and we have to be able to recognize what seems to be a good deal and how it can actually be a bad deal. And we really, think about how awful it would be. Right now, it's bad. Like, you need to go read The Master Switch. If you're looking for a book, and you think this idea is a good idea, you need to go read Tim Wu's The Master Switch right now. Go do it. It's one of those books that it's worth it. And it talks about how every industry it starts with the telegram, the telephone, radio, cable television, on and on and on. Every time one of these technologies is introduced, we always say, oh my gosh, this is going to connect humanity like never before. Information is finally available to all of our fingertips or our eyeballs or our earballs, whatever it was at the time. This is going to change everything. Finally, the world has been flattened. We say it every time. And then every time it gets locked down and isolated up, and these fiefdoms are established, and then these gatekeepers are created. Every single technology this happens to, and it's happening to the internet right now. History is repeating itself for this generation. It's the same exact thing that happened to last generation. Go back and read The Master Switch. It really is a great book. Wow. Boy, did I just get up on a soapbox? I apologize. I did not mean to. I think I just take this internet thing kind of seriously. I think that's my problem.
It is very serious, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get it. We've said our piece. I wanted to follow up on this because it is something that's now spanned multiple episodes of the show, and this was a great article that was written over the weekend. And we'll have a link to it in the show notes. It's pretty quick, too, so it's worth reading. It won't take you more than 5 minutes or so. Hey, before I go, I just want to mention you can keep Jupiter Broadcasting telling it like it is by going over to patreon.com/today. Also, if you don't like me telling it like it is, well, at least if you're a patron, then you've got the bat line of your opinion right to me. Patreon.com/today is where you can go to invest in the Jupiter Broadcasting Network to help us with our future expansions, hire contractors, move into big projects, maybe even get some on-the-road gear. things like that. Patreon.com/today. We've got some suggested pledge levels. It's a monthly contribution. It's not that much, really. It's probably less than going out to a fast food restaurant or getting yourself a cup of coffee. And it's definitely less than a bag of popcorn that I paid for when I went to go watch Guardians of the Galaxy. Patreon.com/today. A really big thank you to all 286 of you. When you go over to patreon.com/today, you're not just keeping Tech Talk Today on the air. I mean, that's kind of given with this setup. But you're investing in every single show on the network. So if you listen to one or more shows, you are really helping your contribution go around and keep the shows you love on the air. Patreon.com/today. And thank you, everybody. All right, Mumble Room, we're going to get out of here. Well, let's shake off all of that crazy internet talk with a feel-good video. Something that makes you just want to go out and play, run around like a kid with a ray gun. So I'm going to play an old classic commercial about a ray gun that you're going to want to run out and buy right now. Goodbye, everybody.
They said it couldn't be done. They said a gun that shoots through glass? Impossible. But it's here, now, with Dick Tracy's new silent ray gun and electronic target game. A gun that shoots a powerful silent ray. Hit the moving target. Shoot for skill. Develop a sharp eye and a steady hand. Improve your score. Sharpshooter, marksman, or expert. For every hit, the buzzer sounds. The better you hit, the higher you score. Only the new Dick Tracy target game has this electronic scoreboard. You can hit all the Dick Tracy bad guys as far as 30 feet away. You control the target speed yourself. Who said it couldn't be done? It's here now, the Dick Tracy electronic target game with special electronic scoring for skill and accuracy, wherever American toys are sold.